So after the RRB results came out, I have been getting this question quite a lot, whether we should settle for the RRB job or we should try for something much better. Now, one camp, they would be saying that the economy is very bad, so you should go ahead and join whatever job you can get. And there's another camp which says that no, RRBs, they are going to get privatized or consolidated or something, so you should always try for something better. There are a lot more nuances to this answer, so let's explore it a little bit more in depth and let me tell you about my thoughts on this exact thing. Hi, this is Supriyo. So, this is a very interesting question that we are going to take up today, and a lot of people have asked me this question, especially in recent days after the results came out, and over the course of time I thought that I should make a video and I should explain my point of view. So, should you be settling for an RRB job? So, this is your RRB PO or your RRB clerk. So, RRB PO, this is basically the RRB officer scale 1, that post I'm talking about. And what about RRB clerk? So, RRB clerk is the RRB office assistant, the RRB OA, the multi-purpose office assistant, that one, whatever you have. So, should you be actually settling? That's the question that we're going to answer. Now, first, let's talk about the salary differences. So, if you talk about the salary differences, I don't feel that there's too much of a difference, and you have to remember that when you take into account all the other consideration, you are not going to feel that your RRB salary is any less. So in your RRB clerk, for example, let's say like in your IBPS clerk or in your PSBs, you get about 30k, so about 30,000 roughly. So there's about 3,000 4,000 differences based on your place of posting. So in your RRB clerk, it's going to be 25,000 or 26,000. So let's consider 25k. So it's about 4 to 5,000. That's the difference, and depending on your place of posting, this varies. So it might be much more closer to that 30k figure. That also sometimes happens. And what about the RRB PO? So for the RRB PO, it's going to be about 40,000. So it goes up to about 43, 44 sometimes. And in your IBPS PO or your other public sector banks, it's about 45,000, 46,000, something like that. So yeah, as you can see, it's about like not more than 3,000 to 5,000. Like that's the difference of your salary. So you are not going to feel in any way underpaid in your RRB job. That much I can guarantee you, because your workload and all of the associated responsibilities and everything, it's going to amount to, it's going to make you feel that you are not in any way less than any other banker. But remember something, that salary, it is not the only thing. And yeah, some people, they definitely want to get like that extra few thousand rupees, but your perks are mostly the same. So you don't really have to think about it that much. Now coming to the work pressure differences. So for the work pressure differences, this is quite a very important thing, because in any other job, like in any other public sector bank, you have to work a lot. So even in your IBPS clerk, even in your IBPS PO, SBI PO, SBI clerk, the work pressure is quite high. And of course the clerical work pressure, it is lesser than the probationary officers, but still you are going to feel that in any other bank the work pressure is quite high. But in the RRBs, what happens is, like in the RRBs, you just do your own responsibilities, and especially if you are an RRB clerk, so the office assistant, like you are not going to feel at any kind of like high pressure or anything. You just have to get your work done, and many of these RRBs, they are not making a lot of profit, so you don't really have that push of the sales push. So this is something that I've noticed, that I feel that the RRB employees, they seem a bit more relaxed. They seem a bit more like they don't really have to push for the sales. They don't really have to go out into the field that much. Of course, they are posted in a rural area, so that does make life a little bit difficult. But still, you don't have to be going out for the sales, and it's not that important to be a good marketer if you are an RRB employee. But this does not hold true if you are in the IBPS clerk, IBPS PO, SBI PO, SBI clerk. Like, of course, the clerks, they don't really have to promote that much, but the POs, yeah, you have to sell your insurance products. You have to just try and get as many loans to the customers as possible. And there's a lot of sales pressure. Even these days, about the credit cards, I have seen like the pressure is quite high. So these things are your responsibilities that is beyond your work. So your work, when it gets over, you are not actually left to actually do your own thing. So you have to get your other work as well. You have to push for the sales for your bank. So these kinds of things actually happen. And of course, the work pressure, if you are in a rural area, if you are in a very interior kind of a small town or something, then you can understand there's not going to be a lot of customers as well. So that works out in your favor. So you have to understand that work pressure, when you're talking about RRB officer or an RRB clerk, they are the winners in that. So you don't really have to worry that much, and you can like lead your life pretty well. Like you are getting the salary, you are doing your work, coming home, and you don't have that much pressure. So you have to remember that. Now, another thing that has been happening these days is that many experienced bankers, they are actually flocking to the RRBs. Now, why is this happening? And I can tell you, like from my personal experience, I know a lot of friends who have done this, and they are quite happy, to be honest with you. So what actually happens here is that you have to understand that here what they are kind of trying to do is that they are leveraging their experience into these RRBs. So they're using this experience, and remember, RRBs, they don't have that expertise of the public sector banks. So they always need those good people to run the RRBs and be in the good scales. So for example, the scale 2. Now I have seen many of my friends, they have joined as scale 2 RRB officers, and some as scale 3 I have seen. So scale 3 is a bit more rare, but scale 2 many have joined. Now what happens is they are heading branches, they are actually doing their responsibilities, they are just going ahead and doing each and every single thing in the branch. And the best thing is, if you are a branch manager in an RRB, it is up to you, and you can close the branch pretty soon. So that is also something that is quite interesting over here. And as per my experience, I've seen that the RRB people, so they can close their cash, and like the bankers will be knowing what I'm talking about. Like you have to close your cash, you have to wrap up your branch activities before you can just put the lock and key and go home. So in the RRBs, you have a lot more opportunities to actually do this. And in the other banks, what happens is, if you close your branch very early, then you are going to get calls from the RBO or from the regional office, and they are not going to let you off so easily. So understand, that's another thing here that works in the favor of the RRB employee. So you can have a little bit more autonomy. So autonomy is also something that is there, that is in your RRB. Like you are not under that much of administrative pressure, and in the other banks the administrative work is quite high. So understand this fact. Another thing that you have to remember is that whenever you are in an RRB, you are in your own state. So this is a very, very important thing. You are never going to go out of your own state. Remember this thing. This is a critical factor. So if you are in your own state, I know a few people, now I can't reveal their names and I can't tell you this that they are doing, so yeah, but unofficially I can say that they also are doing their own business, and they are doing some other activities on the side, which is only possible because they are in their own state. So they are in their own state, they have multiple things going on, and the rules are of course strict even in the RRBs, that you can't do anything else, but there are ways by which you can do it, and people do find those ways, and they are doing some kind of business or something, and this is a good supplementary income for many of those people. And you can understand where I'm going with this. So you understand that you have this kind of autonomy to do your own thing, and also you're getting the salary. So the twice benefits that you are getting, so this is really unparalleled, and that is the reason that many experienced people, they are actually flocking to the RRBs. Now understand something, that your career opportunities, they are quite low in the RRBs. Like you can't become some big shot banker, you can't be in the board of some place, or you can't do those kinds of things. You can't go outside your country, you cannot serve in the offshore banking units, etc. So those things you are not going to get if you are in the RRB. But still, those things, as you age, as you get older, you'll find that those things are not that important for many people. And personally, I feel that
this is dependent on the person to person thing. Like you might want something and the other person wants something totally different, so you have to take a call based on your own personal preferences. And now the adjustment needed for the postings. So definitely, if you are a city dweller, you have never lived in a village or in a rural area, then you're going to find it difficult, because and by the way, if you are a man, then you are definitely getting a rural posting. And there are some RRBs in the cities, so you can get some city postings, but initially you are not going to get. But yeah, of course, if you are a woman, then you might be given that city posting. So don't worry, like women are always held in high esteem and you're always going to get good posting. So the bank will ensure that there is no inconvenience to any woman. So that is the thing that you have to remember. And but usually for other people, you have to just adjust a little bit, because you're living in the rural area, you might not get good food, and sometimes the city can be a little bit far, so it might not be possible unless you have your personal vehicle. It might be difficult to go like up and down every single day. So you have to have those kinds of things in your mind. These are the negative aspects, so you have to weigh them when you are making your decision. And now talking about the future of the RRBs. So before I tell you about the future of the RRBs, let me show you some historical context over here. So the consolidation of the RRBs. So the regional rural banks, they were set up in about 1975, right? In 1975, it actually started. Now, in 1980 itself, the government found that the financial viability of these banks was under question. So they were not making a lot of profits and people were a little bit worried. So in 2004 to 2005, the government first started to try and consolidate these RRBs. So RRBs of the same sponsor banks within a state were merged, and a number of RRBs came down from 196 to 82. So 82, that was the figure at that point of time. 2011-12, again, the RRBs with geographically contiguous areas of operation within a state were merged. So RRBs which were in the same district or in the same area, they were merged. And from 82, the number came down to 56. And then recently in 2018, Government of India in consultation with NABARD, they have decided to bring down the total number of RRBs from 56 to 38. So right now, that's the target that we are working with. And there was another report in 2021 that they want a holding company under which all the RRBs will be placed. So the government wants that. Maybe next year they are going to announce something, and this is going to improve the efficiency. Finally, in January of 2021, we had an update that the number of RRBs right now, it is 43. So you can understand, like in 2018, they had announced that it's going to go down, but still 43 is the number. We have still not gone down to 38. And this is another thing that you have to understand regarding the consolidation of the RRBs, because some people feel that if I get a job in RRB, then how safe is my job? How secure is my job? That's a question on everybody's minds. But let me tell you something which might actually be surprising to you. Your job in an RRB, it is actually even more safe than your job in like IBPS PO or IBPS clerk. Like even in those kinds of banks, it's not that safe. Now, why am I saying this? This I am saying because of the different kinds of things that have happened in the economy right now. So many of these banks under IBPS, they are getting merged, and many are going to get privatized as well. So whenever it is privatized, like you are not going to have that same level of job security. You have to perform, otherwise you are not going to stay in the bank. So that is why in the IBPS, you have a lot more chances of maybe possibly losing your job or having it come under threat because of privatization. But in the RRBs, this is not going to happen. Understand why. This is because RRBs, the main objective of an RRB is that they have to have rural growth, right? So this is quite important. Understand this aspect. Because of this, most of the RRBs, they are in the rural areas. So which private bank wants to have branches in the rural areas? It's not profitable at all, right? So understand this logic. That is why NABARD, RBI and everybody like government in consultation, they are just merging the RRBs and they are bringing down the number of RRBs. So they are not going to privatize the RRBs. Understand this thing. Like there was some news report that it's going to happen, but I don't really feel that's going to happen because it doesn't make business sense to privatize the RRBs. So that is an aspect that you have to remember. And of course, they are going to merge it, they are going to consolidate. And if you are in the job, they are not going to like just tell you to leave. That's not going to happen. You do have some kind of job security, and you can always like join the sponsor bank or something like that. But in the longer term, if you like talk about 10-year time frame, so in 10 years I do feel that RRBs might disappear. That's quite possible because they don't really want to keep these banks, and if that happens, that time you have to actually go ahead and join your sponsor bank or like any of the nationalized or the privatized banks at that point of time if they are privatized. So those kinds of things might happen, but that's a longer time frame, like 10-year thing that I am talking about. So right now I don't really think that it's going to really be impacted, and even in 10 years it might not happen. It might be 15 or 20, nobody knows. Essentially what I will tell you is that in your RRB, like your job security, it is much more essentially, I feel that's the case. And so finally, after talking about all of these aspects, I think you have a good idea about whether you should go for the RRB. It's a good job, it's not a bad job. You're going to have like stable money coming in, and you are not going to have to work that hard, so you can enjoy other things in life as well. So it's a kind of something that many people crave, and this is why many are flocking to the RRBs. I've already explained the reasons for it, so remember that thing as well. In your future it actually will be coming into play. Now my opinion, if you ask my opinion, so there are 3 A's that I have to tell you. So the first A, it is your age. So I would say if you are lesser than 25 years of age, then you don't have to settle. Like, don't go for the RRB job. You try and crack any of the higher exams. There are like exams at NABARD, RBI, SEBI, and even the bigger like other examinations in the insurance field or any other kind of exams. So go for those. So don't settle. Even if you get like some IBPS job or an SBI job, you should not settle. You should try and get to the next level. The second thing, the second A is the appetite. So the appetite, this actually differs from person to person, and when I talk about appetite, I'm talking about the risk appetite. So you might be a little bit older, but you might have that appetite of risk. So if you have that appetite of risk, if you want to push yourself, then it doesn't make sense to actually settle. So you have to go ahead and try for the next level. And the third thing is your atmosphere. Now this actually is something that you have to take care about, because atmosphere, by this I mean the atmosphere at your house and also the atmosphere in the entire nation. So in your house, it might be the thing that people they are telling you to get a better job and they don't want you to go into RRB. So if there's a pressure like that, then you can't do anything else. You have to go in for the other jobs, right? And when I talk about the country atmosphere, so right now we know that Indian economy, it's not doing that well. So even if you get an RRB job, I think you should accept it, because in the like next 1 or 2 years, it's a very like uncertain period and you don't know what's going to happen. There's the CET exam that's also coming up, so that's going to like change up every single thing. So understand these aspects. There's a lot of change coming, so if you don't want to navigate this change, then you can take up the RRB job and you can work for a few years and then you see what's going to happen. So these are the kinds of things you have to ultimately understand. And finally, like many people, they keep asking me this thing that tell me what's the perfect job, what's the best job that I can go for. Now let me tell you, there's no perfect job. There's no job that can satisfy every single thing, like tick all the boxes. All the boxes are never going to be ticked. Understand this thing. You have to make it work. It will never be perfect. You just have to make it work. This is the message that I want to leave you with, that whatever happens, don't be just fixed on that entire thing that you have to get something that's very perfect. It's never going to be perfect. You have to make it perfect. It's up to you, and you have to decide what is the priority in your life and what are the things that you can live with. And if you have this approach, I'm sure that someday you're going to be at peace. And isn't that what it's all about? So I hope that you enjoyed this session and you learned something from it. If you want to see more of this kind of content, please click on the subscribe button and do not forget to click the bell icon so that you, my friend, do not miss any future update. I'll see you in the next video. Bye bye.